On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at the Corrs with their version of Little Wing featuring Ronnie Wood. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, the Corrs are voices of my youth, certainly, such a talented family, and with this performance taking on a Jimi Hendrix classic, it is really interesting to see how they approach this, because as a Jimi Hendrix fan myself, whenever I see somebody doing a cover of a Jimi Hendrix song, it always has to be done a particular way, because there's always the risk that you're going to not do it very well, especially for Jimi Hendrix fans. We just see everything as just already perfect, so how can you improve on it? But the Corrs really do put their own stamp on it. We are going to be having a look at the picture monitoring software on screen, of course, as we always do, with Andrea's lead vocal, and there's a link in the description below, as always, if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it. But let's jump into it.
Now she's walking through the clouds with a circus mind that's running wild. Butterflies and zebras, moonbeams and fairy tales. All she ever thinks about is riding with the wind. When I'm sad, she comes to me with 1,000 smiles she gives to me free. It's alright, she says. Take anything you want from me, anything. Now she's walking through the clouds with a circus mind that's running wild. Butterflies and zebras and moonbeams and fairy tales. All she ever thinks about is riding with the wind.
So I'm just going to jump in here. This is a really difficult one to jump into because it's Little Wing, first of all, but such a great version of it. And in my opinion, this is the kind of thing that you need to do with songs, especially Jimi Hendrix songs, but just songs in general that are really well known. You've got to put your own stamp on it and do it the way that you do it. And the Corrs definitely do this the way that, if anything now, the emphasis isn't on guitar at all. It's actually really stripped back. We've just got an acoustic guitar and Ronnie Wood playing some really subtle lines in there, which is really important because if he was overplaying, it would just totally ruin the whole sound, but the whole performance. So we've got the guitar out, as I think we have to do with this particular song. But we can also appreciate how little it is in there, because we have Jim on the acoustic guitar with the E minor 7th to start with, and this is in standard tuning. Jimmy's original was in flat, E flat, so that's just what he used to do, tune down his guitar by a semitone. But anyway, we've got this looped round, and then we have that tin whistle coming in over the top. Interestingly, Jim with the rhythm just stays on that E minor 7th, so it gives it that slightly more uneasy sound rather than changing to, you know, the chords that you'd have, which we get in the verse. So yeah, we've got a different sound to this intro, but it's great because if we started with, you know, and if we actually got into the traditional Little Wing, you're going to get comparisons, especially, you know, with Ronnie playing the guitar here. He knows that this is a totally different version, and what he's doing is just adding in tiny bits here and there, but he's got a really nice tone. It's really nicely set in the background, but it's just really tastefully played, but just tastefully approached from not only the Corrs but Ronnie. The other great thing about the Corrs as a band is that ability to harmonise with each other and, you know, be able to play an instrument but sing and sing together. So we are going to be focusing on Andrea's voice. We don't have any harmonies here, of course, but we're going to be listening to her isolated vocal, and that's going through the pitch monitoring software on the right hand side of your screen, so we'll be able to see exactly what's going on. Let's just have a quick listen.
Now she's walking through the clouds with a circus mind that's running wild. Butterflies and zebras, moonbeams and fairy tales. All she ever thinks about is riding with the wind.
So you'll notice how Andrea is just super accurate with her vocal. I've made it a bit bigger so that when we scroll through, you can see things a little bit more clearly. But what I'm talking about here, you can see at the bottom of the screen here with the A3, just a really solid held note. I mean, bang on. I mean, it just sounds great. But then that ability to add the vibrato at the end. So we've got that mix of held notes, but then also controlled vibrato.
It's riding with the wind.
And it's really controlled, that wind. Getting that vibrato. I mean, she's just got such a fantastic voice. It's great to hear it isolated as well. Another interesting thing is that with the original, when Jimi Hendrix, sang this, he was, very dismissive of his own voice. But with this song, you got a bit of a relaxed delivery. In terms of it, it's very conversational, and some of the words, some of the lines that Jimmy would sing didn't actually have a melody there. He'd just throw it in literally like talking. So it's something that they've had to approach for this version of Little Wing. They are putting in melody where it didn't exist before, which is a really difficult thing to do, because if it's not a very good melody, then it's really going to stand out that it wasn't there in the first place, and the one that you've put in isn't very good. So, that's another thing to think about entirely. But we've got a fully sung vocal here. Andrea's hitting notes throughout the whole performance. Let's just listen on a little bit more.
When I'm sad, she comes to me.
And the difference in dynamic delivery there, again, that's not in the original song, going up to that A4. When I'm sad, she comes to meet me, and then kind of coming all the way down to the B3. So, again, range we can talk about here, just getting up to that A4, leaning into it a little bit, but then coming back down to then more of a breathy sound. If we listen to that again.
she comes to me.
Me. It's really quite, actually even a little bit of vocal fry in there.
With 1,000 smiles, she gives to me free. It's alright, she says.
See, like there, on that original, that's more spoken rather than actually hitting melodies. But when we're talking about hitting melodies, here, A4, just bang on, down to G4, bang on, E4 as well. You know, this isn't auto-tuned or pitch corrected. It's a natural voice, so it's not going to be just stuck to the lines all the time. But when Andrea does hit a note and holds it, she is just really consistent maintaining that pitch. Let's listen on a little bit more.
Take anything you want from me. Anything.
Listen to how slow that was. We're actually getting a bit of a mix of expression in the vibrato here. Me. That's kind of a little bit faster.
Anything.
And there. Anything. It's actually almost bordering on kind of deliberately slowing it down rather than allowing it to kind of flow as it did a little bit earlier, faster. But this is the point. It's exaggerating the note. So you almost hear the you almost hear that change in pitch from note to note. But, you know, we can see that it's not a full semitone, of course, that we're going to. We can see on the D4 here that we just bang over the D4 and we've got that really nice vibrato both above and below the note. Just to point out a little bit about the guitar, and what we've got going on here from Ronnie, you can just hear these tiny little fills being played in the background. Have a listen.
With 1,000 smiles, she gives to me free.
Actually, I think that might be two guitars. We've got one going, kind of just sliding up, and then Ronnie's going, you know, again, really subtle, but that's exactly what it needs and where it should be, dynamically. Yeah, if you start overplaying in this, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb.
It's alright, she says. Take anything you want from me. Anything.
And, I mean, even there, we had this, you know, really subtle. I think that's actually that second guitar, which is putting in a lead line here or there. Because, I mean, Ronnie's tone is so silky smooth. I mean, it sounds great. What I'll do is I'll take it back to where we got to and let it play on from there.
Go, Ronnie Wood.
I'm just going to jump in here because we've had a transition there from Ronnie obviously grabbing his slide, ready to play a little bit of slide. Actually, they went to a slow motion bit, so maybe that was just covering that little change over. But, I mean, I'm going to take that back to the beginning of the solo because with the Jimi Hendrix version, everyone will know that kind of... you know, kind of that original solo, but I love the fact that he doesn't go anywhere near that. I mean, so we've just got this slide from 3 to 5 on your B string. And he kind of does that a couple of times. And not sure whether, yeah, he applies vibrato there or not. But again, really understated. Kind of bluesy bend in there. And it's that kind of... that kind of pre-bend in there. You know, this is, you know, really tastefully played and put together. I think it's probably one of my pet hates, as we call them here in the UK. People who cover Jimi Hendrix songs and, you know, they might get into the solo here and they might go... and they'll start kind of doing stuff that is out of context of the original, especially if you're kind of not doing it in your own way. You're kind of being close to the original, but then going off on one with your guitar, you know, maybe kind of tapping and doing alternate picking and arpeggios, you know, sweep picking, all of this stuff that would be totally irrelevant to the song. And this is the important part, that you're playing for the song and for the version of the song that you're, you know, doing. If you are kind of doing a totally different version, as soon as you start to kind of take something out of context and start playing something that's, you know, really technically impressive, but it doesn't suit the song, then it's just basically showing off. And unfortunately, it always comes across as that. I mean, especially to guitar players, but people listening to it will find that it doesn't fit. It doesn't sit in the song. There's something wrong with a particular solo, but people won't know why it is. But this is just the thing. You've got to match your playing, your techniques, your feel to what you're playing over the top of. And there we have it. So, a unique version of Little Wing. And, I mean, there's so much in here, the way that it's been worked together to be a totally different version, to be one that's going to work, of course, with the Corrs and how they've pieced it together instrumentally. But then the way that Ronnie comes in and, you know, just plays the part that is required of him, rather, I mean, it would be so easy for somebody to come in and say, oh, I'm playing guitar, this is a very well-known guitar song, I'm going to take the limelight. But it's something that Ronnie certainly doesn't do. And yeah, when he changes to slide as well, it gives it a different sound, a different dynamic, because now when he's sliding across the strings, you're now hearing obviously multiple strings at the same time rather than single notes. So it means that dynamically that solo has moved on from the first section and is now opened up a little bit. So we've still got that journey in the solo to keep it interesting and just, yeah, effectively change the voice of the guitar that's coming through, because it's going to sound a lot more now like a vocal, something that you're sliding. We haven't got frets anymore. Once you start playing with a slide with your fingers over frets, it's going from one note and we're hearing it, and then And that's it. You'll have a semitone, but you can hear how no matter how I do that, you hear how regimented that is, that it's just, you know, solid. And I haven't got a slide, but I'm not sure that I can use the side of this. I will try, see if it goes through, but... So, that's a very poor example of grabbing something to hand. No, because we have the ability to do that. I mean, it would be a lot easier if we had frets on our vocal cords, if we wanted them to be able to hit notes really accurately. But I guess that's what auto-tune and pitch correction's for nowadays. But don't get me started on that. But just having that different voice coming through the guitar, that's what I mean. It's now not regimented. Even though with bends, of course, you'll get that. You'll have your, you know, you hear that gradual ascension to the note. But, you know, more importantly, what you don't get when you then vibrato on guitar, you've got to go above the note all the time. You can't go below it, you know, unless you're using your whammy bar. And now you can hear it's going below the note, but just playing with your fingers, you're not going to get that. With a slide, you can now go below the note and vibrato with that. So again, yeah, different sounding voice. But a really interesting one to take a look at tonight. And I mean, this is the kind of performance and song that we could break down for years. I don't want this video to go on for too long, but it's great to hear such a different version of a Jimi Hendrix classic. Thank you guys for requesting this video for me to take a look at. And as always, keep the suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!